Greetings wonderful audience, Amarjit here from Amar PTE classes. In today's video I'm going to perform a mock test, full mock test of PTE including 4 sections: speaking, writing, reading and listening. So you can also start this test with me. So let's start. First is the speaking section, and after that reading section, and after that listening section. So let's start. This test is from AP Uni.
Application forms for sharing accommodations must be complete.
Microphone is working. Microphone is working. So this is the introduction part. In AP Uni you can't skip the introduction, but in the final PTE exam, means if you are giving the PTE exam in the exam center, then you can skip the introduction, but if you are performing the test on the AP Uni, then you have to introduce yourself. So you can just read that parameters only. My name is Amarjit Kaur. So this is the first task of speaking section, read aloud. Summerhill School was regarded with considerable suspicion by the educational establishment. Lessons were optional for pupils at the school, and the government of the school was carried out by a school council of which all the pupils and staff were members, with everyone having equal voting rights. Summerhill School was regarded with considerable suspicion by the educational establishment. Lessons were optional for pupils at the school, and the government of the school was carried out by a school council of which all the pupils and staff were members, with everyone having equal voting rights. The survey found that the statistical chances of someone from a poor background being accepted at one of the country's most respected universities are far lower than those of a student from a wealthy family. This means that the inequalities in society are likely to be passed down from one generation to the next. The survey found that the statistical chances of someone from a poor background being accepted at one of the country's most respected universities are far lower than those of a student from a wealthy family. This means that the inequalities in society are likely to be passed down from one generation to the next. Despite a number of events in recent years devoted to language diversity, language endangerment and multilingualism, such as the International Year of Languages, public awareness of the issues is still remarkably limited. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that half the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century. Despite a number of events in recent years devoted to language diversity, language endangerment and multilingualism, such as the International Year of Languages, public awareness of the issues is still remarkably limited. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that half the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century. The advantage of the great European and American orchestras is that they were able to establish their iconic status in an age when their identity could become entrenched. There was less competition and it was easier to create a brand. Not only did they have the best halls, they attracted the best musicians who tended to stay put. The advantage of the great European and American orchestras is that they were able to establish their iconic status in an age when their identity could become entrenched. There was less competition and it was easier to create a brand. Not only did they have the best halls, they attracted the best musicians who tended to stay put. It's time for this young loggerhead turtle to go to work. We can tether turtles in these little cloth harnesses, put them into this tank and dull swimming place. University of North Carolina biologist Ken Lohman studies sea turtles that are programmed from birth for an extraordinary journey. Mother turtles buried the eggs on the beach and then returned to the sea, and the eggs hatch about 50 to 60 days later. It's time for this young loggerhead turtle to go to work. We can tether turtle in these little cloth harnesses, put them into this tank and dull swimming place. University of North Carolina biologist Ken Lohman studies sea turtles that are programmed from birth for an extraordinary journey. Mother turtles buried the eggs on the beach and then returned to the sea, and the eggs hatch about 50 to 60 days later. While advances in agricultural science have always been critical to ensuring we help feed the world, its impact and importance is even greater now. As population grows at a rapid rate and the availability of arable land steadily declines, science and technology solutions are essential to meeting growing demand for food, maintaining market competitiveness, and adapting to land mitigating risks. While advances in agriculture science have always been critical to ensuring we help feed the world, its impact and importance is even greater now. As population grows at a rapid rate and the availability of arable land steadily declines, science and technology solutions are essential to meeting growing demand for food, maintaining market competitiveness, and adapting to land mitigating risks. The benefits and disadvantages of globalization are the subject of ongoing debate. The downside to globalization can be seen in the increased risk for the transmission of diseases. Globalization have of course led to great good too. Richer nations now can come to the aid of poorer nations in crisis. Increasing diversity in many countries has meant for more opportunity to learn about and celebrate other cultures. The benefits and disadvantages of globalization are the subject of ongoing debate. The downside to globalization can be seen in the increased risk for the transmission of diseases. Globalization of course led to great good too. Richer nations now can come to the aid of poorer nations in crisis. Increasing diversity in many countries has meant for opportunity to learn about and celebrate other cultures. Repeat sentence.
Today's lecture is cancelled because the lecturer is ill.
Today's lecture is cancelled because the lecturer is ill.
I'm available this Thursday afternoon.
I am available this Thursday afternoon.
Tuition fees will vary according to the field of study.
Tuition fees will vary according to the field of study.
Newspapers around the country are reporting the stories of the president.
Newspapers around the country are reporting the stories of the president.
The department determines whether or not the candidates pass.
The department determines whether or not the candidate is pass.
A very basic feature of computing is counting and calculating.
A very basic feature of computing is counting and calculating.
All students must return the books to the college library before the end of the term.
All students must return the books to the college library before the end of the term.
Note that the deadline of the submission of proposals has been extended for a week.
Note that the deadline of the submission of the proposal has been extended for a week.
The current labor force is more competitive than it has been for a long time.
The current labor force is more competitive than it has been for a long time.
Foods containing overabundant calories supply little or no nutritional value.
Food containing calories supply little or no nutritional value.
The contemporary literature works have been broadened and extended through interpretation.
The contemporary literature work have been extended through interpretation. Describe image, and it's a first question. I think the name of the image is the age group. And the content is male, female, and the percent. The image provided shows us information about the age group. It displays various elements on the x-axis and on the y-axis. In the image there are different colors, black, yellow and red. Additionally, I noticed keywords like males, females and the percent, as well as 7.5, 13.8% and 16.2%. Furthermore, within the image one element appears to be maximum while another seems to be minimum. Overall, the image is very informative. Chemical transformation and nitric acid, sulfuric acid, particulates and gases, precipitation, acid rain, fog, snow, and there are a lot of keywords: industry, transportation, power generation, ore smelting. So it's not possible for me to cover up all the keywords. The image provided shows us information about chemical transformation. It displays various elements on the x-axis and on the y-axis. In the image there are different colors like black, yellow and red. Additionally, I noticed keywords like nitric acid, sulfuric acid, precipitation, acid rain, as well as industry, transportation and the power generation. Furthermore, within the image one element appears to be maximum while another seems to be minimum. Overall, the image is very informative. It's Finland, Norway, Sweden and Portugal. I think this is the map of the European countries. Greece, Italy, France. Again, there are a lot of keywords in this image. The image provided shows us information about European countries. It displays various elements on the x-axis and on the y-axis. In the image there are different colors like black, yellow and red. Additionally, I noticed keywords like Germany, Poland, France and Denmark, as well as Norway, Sweden, Finland and Estonia. Furthermore, within the image one element appears to be maximum while another seems to be minimum. Overall, the image is very informative. It's a retail lecture.
One of the social issues faced by the state of Alaska is the lack of mental and emotional well-being of the native Alaskans. It is very unfortunate that many of the Native Americans are living under poor conditions throughout the country. In the cases of Native Alaskans, even virtually entire villages are suffering from a lack of mental and emotional well-being, which includes continuing poor physical and mental health. Alcohol abuse, domestic violence, homicides and suicides are frequent among them, which of course lead to families falling apart. It is tragic to see that many children are abused and not educated properly. As a matter of fact, the children themselves are abusing alcohol and other chemicals, and the rate is increasing over the time. Since parents are suffering from mental illnesses and alcohol abuse, they can't take care of their children. So many children are being taken care of by others or simply neglected. Therefore, we can conclude that Alaskan natives are losing hold of their communities, cultural identities, and most importantly, their childhoods. So you can see how serious the issue is. Plus, rather than making a living for themselves, they are depending on public services and subsidies. They have lost control of and responsibility for their economy and governing institutions.
1.
The speaker was discussing Alaska well-being. He talked about lack of mental and emotional well-being. He discussed that Native Americans are living under poor conditions. He mentioned that poor physical and mental health. He highlighted that many children are abused and not educated properly. Finally, he suggested that they are depending upon public services and subsidies. Overall, the lecture was very informative.
If someone tells you the truth, what is the opposite?
Untruth.
What is a person called whose job is to write news for newspapers?
Journalist.
What is the large, flat surface that films are shown on?
Screen.
What is another way to say the arrangement of musical notes in a tune?
Melody.
What is in the opposite direction from the head?
Foot.
What is the scientific study of rocks?
Geology. This is the first task of the writing section, summarize written text, and you have to write this paragraph in a one line without using full stop in between the lines. So let's start with the first line. In addition, I am taking first line as it is. To this, lack of information about protein families, there is a lack of information about those from the species there. From the species of the most interest to researchers, Homo H capital sapiens. Now this is the first line. Now I am using connector here, but then comma, then give a space. Only I am choosing the second line as it is. Only O small here, only a quarter of known protein structures are human, and a majority of the rest comes from bacteria. Semicolon, next connector here is hence, comma, then give a space. This is a problem for in proteins form and function are intimately related, and here it is full stop. So proofreading is very important in this task. After completing the task, you have to read this paragraph again. In addition to this lack of information about protein families, this is the first line, there is a lack of information about those from the species of the most interest to researchers. Check your spelling of researchers, then Homo sapiens. So I am taking here from second line. Only a quarter of known protein structures are human, and I'm combining these two lines from here and here. The word limit is 63. Are human and a majority of the rest. I'm using here and, so it's comes from bacteria. Hence this is a problem, for in proteins form and function are intimately related. So you have 10 minutes to complete this task and for the proofreading as well. So I am completing this task in within 5 minutes. So just click on the next button. Now this is the second task of the writing section, write an essay. So you can use your template for writing a essay. Here I am using my template. So let's start this task. In this task we have, in this particular essay we have two lines. This is the first line and this is the second line. So for content part I am using the first line as it is. So you can also write this essay with your templates and you can check your score on any website. The contribution of, this is the first paragraph, the contribution of technology to human society is visible to everyone, However, nowadays humans are dependent on the mercy of science. Now next is the topic. Some people think that universities should not provide so much theoretical knowledge but give more practical training throughout their courses. This is the line from the topic of the essay. Now this essay will discuss both sides of the argument and come to a logical discussion. This is the first paragraph. First and foremost, there are many reasons in favor of the argument. Here it is to a logical discussion. Argument. The best explanation is that the value of science is appreciated by us whenever we are in a difficult situation. For example, in a survey conducting by leading researchers, most people gave positive feedback gave positive feedback on science. Hence it is that we cannot ignore that we cannot ignore the positive outcome the positive outcome of the given notion. This is the second paragraph, and now it is third paragraph. On the contrary, the people opposing the argument have their strong reasons. The justification is that on occasions when we need the help of science, it exposes to us it exposes to us its darker side. For instance, next connector, many studies have proved the highly negative impacts of science on human life today. Therefore, one can postulate that this scenario has various drawbacks that have to be seen. Now, last paragraph, here it is, therefore. Whenever we think of technology, a mixed feeling surrounds us and leaves us, surrounds us and leaves us wondering how the future will be. How the future will be. However, after discussing both sides, one can conclude that now I am copying this line from here as it is. Click on the copy button and I am pasting here, but this is small s. So now word count is 230 and the word limit is 200 to 300 words. Here it is 2 times is, hence it is. The contribution of technology to human society is visible to everyone. Humans are dependent on this. Some people think that so much theoretical knowledge. This essay will discuss both sides of the argument and come to a logical discussion. First and foremost, there are many favor. The best explanation is that the value of science, we are difficult situation conducting, for example, in a survey. Here it is conducted. Conducted by leading researchers. Most people gave positive feedback on science and this is cannot give notion. Opposing the argument, justification, therefore one can this have to be seen whenever we think of technology. So third part of the mock test is the reading section. Here time is 29 to 30 minutes. ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ time period ਹੋਏਗਾ 29 to 30 minutes ਹੋਏਗਾ. Same time period ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ final ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ. Sometime ਜਿਹੜਾ time period ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹ ਸਿਰਫ 28 minutes ਹੁੰਦਾ. So this is the crucial to manage the time in the reading section. So let's start. One of the characteristics of good information identified earlier was here 16 questions that it should be balanced in an ideal word or balanced information would present all the dash for and against, leave you this and draw conclusion. All the information present a position of this may not be necessarily objectivity may therefore be and this meant that user of information to and to take account of when you interpret the information. So first question, one of the characteristics of good information identified earlier was that it should be balanced in an ideal word. So here option is subjective, inferior, objective and inductive. So or is balanced. So we have options. Inferior तो नहीं हो सकता अपने कोल ਤੇ ਇੰਡਕਟਿਵ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏਗਾ. ਆਬਜੈਕਟਿਵ ਤੇ ਸਬਜੈਕਟਿਵ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਆਏਗਾ. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਆਬਜੈਕਟਿਵਿਟੀ ਮੇ देयरफॉर. ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਸ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਬਜੈਕਟਿਵ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ. ਸੋ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ would present all the dash for and against. So information, content, evidence ਜਾਂ cause. So ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ for and against. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਫਾਇਦੇ ਲਈ ਪਲੱਸ ਉਹਦੇ ਅਗੇਂਸਟ ਅਗਰ ਕੁਝ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. ਸੋ ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ would present all the dash. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ evidence. Next ਹੈਗਾ in the real world however we recognize that all information present a position of dash although this may not necessarily be intentional. So all information presents a position of. इंटरेस्ट इंटरेस्टेड, पोजीशन ऑफ इंटरेस्टेड नहीं आएगा, इंटर्नशिप की कोई गल ही नहीं हो रही, पैराग्राफ उस तो रिलेटेड ही नहीं हैगा। नैक्सट है हॉबी की भी गल नहीं हो रही, सो अगर आप ऑफ की गल करिए तो इत्थे की आएगा इंटरेस्ट। दिस मीन दैट द वंस इन ऑन यूज एज द रीडर एंड द यूजर ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन टू अ क्रिटिकल अवेयरनेस। सो इत्थे हैगा डेवलप, यील्ड, एग्जर्ट या थ्रू। यील्ड और क्रिटिकल अवेयरनेस भी नहीं आएगा, एग्जर्ट भी नहीं आएगा, थ्रू भी नहीं आएगा। सो इत्थे अपने कोल आएगा आपां इत्थे उन्हें कहा कि अवेयरनेस दे रिगार्डिंग गल हो रही है, पोजीशन रिप्रेजेंटेड इन व्हाट यू रीड एंड टू टेक अकाउंट ऑफ दिस व्हेन यू इंटरप्रेट। सो अवेयरनेस आपां ने की करनी है, डेवलप करनी है। सो इत्थे आ गया इंफॉर्मेशन टू डेवलप। नेक्स्ट उन्हें क्या है, as long as they are open about the perspective they present hidden bias whether or not it is deliberate, can be misleading, delicate ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ, ਅਗਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਸਮਾਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ delicate ਹੋਏਗਾ, deductive ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਕੁਝ deduct ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ, delicious means ਆਪਾਂ sweets ਦੇ ਲਈ यूज ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਤਿੰਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਕੋਈ ਮੀਨਿੰਗ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣ ਰਿਹਾ, ਸੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ यूज ਕਰਾਂਗੇ deliberate। Next, a giant turtle made from discarded plastic trash and greet visitor to the British Science Festival this week. The plastic container, bottle and cup were collected where the event is taking place at the city's university. Standing this, the art installation commissioned by the university of this aim of raising awareness of plastic waste. Marine pollution is a mounting global challenge which is already having consequences. We have a duty to protect these fragile environments and the marine life and ecosystem which we dash home. The university has commissioned this installation as a physical dash of what is ending up in the oceans, but also to ask visitors to campus to stop and think. So first the agar aapa gal kariye, the plastic container, bottle and cup were collected this where the event is taking place at the university, standing the art installation commissioned. So ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੈਗਾ commissioned, but ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਤਾਂ has ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ third form ਹੀ ਆਏਗੀ, being ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, have ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, was ਹੋ ਗਿਆ। ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ confusing ਨੇ, but ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ made from, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਣਿਆ। ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਵਿਲ ਗ੍ਰੇਟ, ਇੱਥੇ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ, ਬਟ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਦੀ ਪਲਾਸਟਿਕ ਕੰਟੇਨਰ, ਬੋਟਲਸ ਐਂਡ ਕੱਪਸ ਵਰ ਕਲੈਕਟਡ। ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਵਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਸੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏਗਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਵਾਜ਼ ਕਮਿਸ਼ਨਡ। ਨੈਕਸਟ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਦੈਨ ਦਿਸ pollution is a mounting global challenge which is already having, so having ਇੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਆ ਗਿਆ ing, having devastated, devastating, devastate, to devastate, so having ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਕੀ ਆਏਗੀ ing form। and ecosystem which we dash home, so settle home नहीं आएगा, originate या go home नहीं आएगा। उन्हें किहा कि ਜਿਹੜਾ environment है या ecosystem है ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਘਰ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, so ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏਗਾ call home। The university has commissioned this installation as a physical of what is ending up in the oceans। physical reminder हैगा, receipt है, reinforcement है या recognition है। so उन्होंने कहा कि what is ending up in the ocean, so मेरे according ये होएगा reminder। Since the last papal reform, several dash have been to make the Western calendar more useful. Very few reforms, such as the rather different decimal French Republican and Soviet calendar, and had gained official, but each was put off use. Several dash arguments, essays, assumptions या proposals. So ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ several essays भी नहीं होंगे, assumptions भी नहीं होंगे, argument होएगा, proposal होएगा, but ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ कि western calendar more useful, so ਆਪਾਂ useful ਬਣਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ proposals ਦਵਾਂਗੇ। have been है ਤਾਂ third form आएगी, expected है, expected हो सकता है, accomplished है, overthrown है, offered है। सो इत्थे उन्हें क्या प्रपोजल वर्ड अगर मैं इत्थे प्रपोजल फिल कर रही हाँ सो मैं इत्थे ऑफर्ड ही फिल करूँगी क्योंकि आप प्रपोजल ऑफर करांगे मोर यूजफुल और पोर्टेबल एक जगह तो दूजी जगह लेके जाना स्ट्रिक्ट रेगुलर वर्ड ही इत्थे सुटेबल है सोवियत कैलेंडर एंड गेन्ड ऑफिशियल एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफिशियल की होएगा एक्सेप्टेंस मिलेगी एक्सेप्टेड एक्सेप्ट टू एक्सेप्ट एक्सेप्टिंग एक्सेप्टेंस next is a mini helicopter model by flying trees can be seen in flying overhead even Unrich and colleagues at the University of Maryland in College Park the biological world for inspiration to build a scaled down helicopter that could mimic the properties of this. The complex of full-size helicopter get less efficient when shrunk, meaning the standard mini helicopter expend most of their power simply fighting to stay stable. Manufacturing cost to boot it burns out that the nature, the seeds of trees such as the maple have this to fly or away and drift safely to the ground. These seeds known as this need no engine to dash through the air. Maryland in College Park. ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਮੈਰੀਲੈਂਡ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਾਇਓਲੋਜੀਕਲ ਵਰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੇਂਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਫॉर ਇਨਸਪੀਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਟੂ ਬਿਲਡ ਅ ਸਕੇਲਡ ਡਾਊਨ ਹੈਲੀਕਾਪਟਰ ਟਰਨਡ ਫॉर ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਯੂਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਟਰਨਡ ਇਨ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਟਰਨਡ ਆਫ ਮੀਨਸ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੋ ਟਰਨਡ ਆਫ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗਾ ਟਰਨਡ ਫॉर ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗਾ ਸੋ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਟੂ ਮੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਇੱਥੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਯੂਜ਼ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਉਹ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਟਰਨਡ ਟੂ next हैगा properties of this the complex of full size helicopter ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ full size ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ full size ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ get less efficient when shrunk meaning that the standard mini helicopters so ਇੱਥੇ complex ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਉਹਦਾ design ਹੁਣ next ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ simple aircraft design so ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ design ਹੀ ਆਏਗਾ Next है it turns out the nature is beating them, was bitten, had bitten या bitten. So ਇੱਥੇ अगर ਗੱਲ करिए realized that stay stable would much less power. So मेरे according ਇੱਥੇ आएगा had bitten. The seed of tree have a single blade structure that had allows them क्योंकि that ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ use ਕਰਾਂਗੇ as engine to first form of a spin through the air fluctuate drift ਜਾਂ fly so ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ auto rotation ਹੈ so auto rotation ਦੇ ਲਈ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਹੜਾ word use ਕਰਾਂਗੇ spin next ਹੈਗਾ Imagine a time in this renewable energy and traditional sources grid that manage thousands of windmills and hundreds of thousands of customers. Computer, the grid is able to this. This technology is a new frontier in power supply and seen as a green regulation, outdated management system. Their electricity to be able to select the cheapest time. The difficulty for the energy industry is the smart grid. Computer has controlled computer controls या computer controlling means जो चल रहा है so ऐथे उन्हें क्या है the grid is able to manage instant variation in supply and demand and provide a real time power balance so real time power balance है ते ਤੁਹਾਡੀ instant variation है supply and demand ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ possible ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ computer controlled ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ computer control ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ far more complex than anything with existence ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ without ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ prepositions ਨੇ so anything ਹੁਣ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ exist ਕਰ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ it is called a smart grid so then anything in existence today next ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ their electricity charges and to able to select the cheapest time टाइम ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸੋਚਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੁਟੇਬਲ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਆਏਗਾ ਸਲੋਟਸ that smart grid does not exist, do not exist. ਇੱਥੇ do not ਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ smart grids do not exist. Next ਹੈਗਾ built various type of equipment failures the grid to test the system. On to above ਸਾਰੀਆਂ prepositions ਨੇ but ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ wind generator and solar panels to feed into a constantly operating system. For an authentic approach, researcher built various type of equipment failures into the grid ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. Next ਹੈਗਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ multiple choice multiple answers. Which of the following statements are correct? The body ways of caring to protect skin from burning is by producing melanin. The most cases of skin cancer are linked to exposure to ultraviolet radiation. The vaccine could help people boost their defenses against skin cancer. ਇਹ ਵੀ ਸਾਡਾ correct ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ. Skin cancer is the most common cancer in the United States and is the least deadly. Ultraviolet radiation from the sun certainly cause skin cancer. So ਮੇਰੇ according ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੋ ਮੇਰਾ ਇਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਇਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਡੀਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ. ਐਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਐਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਆਨਸਰ ਹੋਏਗਾ. ਸੋ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਇੱਕ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨੇ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸਟੇਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਕਰੈਕਟ ਨੇ ਬਟ ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਲਾਸਟ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਮੋਸਟ ਕੇਸਿਸ ਆਫ ਸਕਿਨ ਕੈਂਸਰ ਆ CDC are linked to UV radiation exposure. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ UV rays means ultraviolet radiation from the sun certainly causes skin cancer. ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੀ ਆਪਸ਼ਨ ਇੱਥੇ ਟਿਕ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਨੈਗੇਟਿਵ ਮਾਰਕਿੰਗ ਹੈ. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਟਿਕ ਕਰਤੀ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ 0 ਮਾਰਕਸ ਆਉਣਗੇ. ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਸਟ ਇੱਕ ਆਪਸ਼ਨ ਟਿਕ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ. ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ according to the text which of the following behaviors are expected of a new Vaza bride? She is not allowed to drink milk from her father's cow. She cannot use the name of any of her husband's male relatives. At her wedding, she is meant to appear unwilling. She is not allowed to enter her new home by the front entrance. She must wear a head scarf when meeting her husband's relative. She is not allowed to touch plates in the family home. She must avoid using the names of some of her husband's relatives. These rules ਸਾਰੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ. become less, the handkerchief is eventually removed, gift are exchanged and family relation become a bit more. Finally there is ritual killing of cow and the bride is allowed to drink the milk of the homestead. However, once done she can no longer drink the milk of father house, symboling her final separation from her family. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ E. ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੀ ਆਪਸ਼ਨ ਇੱਥੇ ਚੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ. ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਰੀਆਰਡਰ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ. ਸੋ ਰੀਆਰਡਰ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਇਹੀ ਸਟ੍ਰੈਟਜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ 2 ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਨੂੰ ਸੀਕੁਐਂਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਰੇਂਜ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੋਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਸੀਕੁਐਂਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਰੇਂਜ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ. ਸੋ ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਟਾਈਮ 14 ਮਿੰਟਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ. However, one general rule for all students is that television seems to be more of a distraction than music or other background noise. So leave the TV off when you are reading or studying. So ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ all student ਵਾਸਤੇ ਰੂਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ TV ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਫ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਡਿਸਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਬੈਕਗਰਾਊਂਡ ਨੋਇਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਫॉर ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ. So don't let yourself distracted by computer, game, email or internet. So ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜਾ however ਹੈ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਸੈਂਟੈਂਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ. ਹੁਣ ਫਸਟ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ some students say that they need quiet to read studies. ਕੁਝ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ. The point you should know the level of noise. ਉਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ noise ਦਾ ਲੈਵਲ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ other study best in crowded noisy room because the noise actually helps them concentrate. So ਮੇਰੇ according ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ some student ਉੱਪਰ ਆ ਗਿਆ they need quiet to read and study. So other ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ in the crowded noisy because the noise actually help them concentrate. So ਇੱਥੇ quiet ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, ਇੱਥੇ noisy ਹੋ ਗਿਆ. So noisy ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ you should know the level of noise that is optimal for your own studying. So ਮੇਰੇ according sequence simple है. This is the simplest reorder paragraph. Second, fourth, third one. ज़्यादा सोचਣ ਦੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੋੜ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ. Next हैगा the caller transmitted each animal position every 4 hours for up to 2 years. ਇਹ ਕੋਈ device ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ animals ਦੀ position ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ every 4 hours up to 2 years. But in 2010, so but ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਕਦੇ ਵੀ first opening sentence ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਾਂ connector use ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ but in 2010 and 11 this university and her colleagues were given permission to attach GPS tracking collars to 5 pandas in the National Nature Reserve in China. We know very little about wild pandas because they are so rare. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਘੱਟ ਨੇ and almost impenetrable forest. ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸੰਘਣੇ ਜੰਗਲ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਨੇ. ਫਿਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਦੀ team found the home ranges of individual pandas overlapped on a few occasions. So ਇਹ team ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, so ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ. It means ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੁਛ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ sequence ਬਣ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ. So ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਪਹਿਲਾ sequence ਕੀ ਬਣੇਗਾ? So ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ we know very little ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਡਿਵਾਈਸ ਦਾ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਸ ਡਿਵਾਈਸ ਕਰਦੀ ਕੀ ਐਕਚੁਅਲ ਚ ਉਹ ਦੱਸਿਆ. ਬਟ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਨੇ. ਸੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫਰਸਟ ਸੈਂਟੈਂਸ ਆਏਗਾ ਵੀ ਤੋਂ ਆਏਗਾ. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਟ੍ਰਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਨਾਊਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਰਸਟ ਸੈਂਟੈਂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਬਟ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕੋਈ ਸੈਂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਦੀ ਤਾਂ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਲੂਰਲ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਰਸਟ ਸੈਂਟੈਂਸ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਬਟ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਕੁਝ ਕਿਸੇ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਨੇ ਪਲੱਸ ਉਹਦੇ ਕਲੀਗਸ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਪਰਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੀ ਕਿ ਉਹ GPS ਟਰੈਕਿੰਗ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਟੂ ਫਾਈਂਡ ਦੀ ਪਾਂਡਾਸ ਇਨ ਦਿਸ ਚਾਈਨਾ. ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਉਹ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਡਿਵਾਈਸ ਸੀਗੀ? ਕਾਲਰਸ ਹੀ ਸੀਗੇ. ਸੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਇਹ ਸੀਕੁਐਂਸ ਸੇਮ ਰਹੇਗਾ 3 to 1 4. ਸੋ ਕਾਲਰਸ ਉਹ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਕਾਲਰਸ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ? ਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਅਪ ਟੂ 2 years ਤੇ ਉਹ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਨੀਮਲਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ. ਸੋ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਟੂ ਮੀ ਦੀ ਸੀਕੁਐਂਸ ਇਜ਼ 3 to 1 4. ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਚੈੱਕ ਯੂਰ ਸੀਕੁਐਂਸ ਐਜ਼ ਵੈਲ. So this is the reading filling the blanks. ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਫਾਈਨਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 5 questions ਆਉਣਗੇ. So first question ਹੈਗਾ so ਮੇਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ strategy ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ blanks ਦੇ options check ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ. So ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ options ਵੇਖ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ. Established, lately, decision, seasonally, preference, dense, complicated. So first ਹੈਗਾ studies of pine in Scotland have shown that the diet varies with mammals, berries, ਇੱਥੇ season ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ and small birds being the main food. Recent work on a plantation has shown that their home ranges in areas dominated by forest and dash. Within home ranges, matons utilize area of grassy vegetation within the forest which are typically associated with this, for which a strong selective over other mammals is shown. So ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀ ਹੈ studies of pine matons in Scotland have shown that the diet ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ. So diet ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਉਹਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ with small mammals, berries in the late summer and small birds being the main food. So diet ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ season ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ. So ਮੇਰੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੀ first option ਆਏਗੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਏਗਾ seasonally. Next ਉਹਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ recent work on a plantation has shown that their home ranges ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ home ਦੀਆਂ ranges ਨੇ in areas dominated by forest and dash shrubs. So ਅਗਰ ਇੱਥੇ dominated by forest ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ shrubs ਕੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ? dense. So ਮੈਨੂੰ third ਜਿਹੜੀ blank ਹੈ ਉਹਦਾ meaning ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ clear ਹੈ. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ meaning ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ easily ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹੀ blanks ਨੂੰ fill ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ. Next ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ within the forest which are typically associated with this, for which a strong selective over other small mammals. So over other small mammals ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ? ਪ੍ਰੈਫਰ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਓਵਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਫਰ ਸੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਇਹ ਤਿੰਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਆਨਸਰ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਰੀਸੈਂਟ ਵਰਕ ਔਨ ਅ ਪਲਾਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਜ਼ shown that the maintains their home ranges so ਉਹ home ਕੀ ਕਰਨਗੇ establish so seasonally establish dense and preference So next ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ it sounds like something out of a science fiction movie deliberating suddenly name plausible cause possibility authored united it sounds like something out of a science fiction movie or nightmare millions of honey bees dying off their bodies never found scientists have the third form of verb use ਹੋਏਗੀ this but they are not on the reason are not है so ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ed form use ਹੋਏਗੀ theories abound as to the dash the ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ noun use ਹੋਏਗਾ mass die off ranging from this and to the more through still debated ਹੁਣ next first ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ it sounds like something out of a science fiction movie or nightmare millions of honeybees dying off their bodies never found scientists have so suddenly first is the suddenly ਕਿ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਡੈਥ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਡੈਥ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਇੰਟਿਸਟ ਹੈਵ ਸੋ ਹੈਵ ਦੀ ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਨੇਮਡ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਰੇ ਤੇ ਆਥਰਡ ਹੈ ਯੂਨਾਈਟਿਡ ਹੈ ਬਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਫਿਨੋਮੀਨਾ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਾਲੋਨੀ ਕਲੈਪਸ ਡਿਸਆਰਡਰ ਸੋ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਨੇਮਡ ਬਟ ਦੇ ਆਰ ਨਾਟ ਡੈਸ਼ ਔਨ ਦੀ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ theories abound as to the dash of the mass die off ranging from the unlikely united are not क्योंकि ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ed form ਆਏਗੀ so authored ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ cause So next हैगा confusion, relationship, issues, sensitive, resistance, insight. As research has shown, emotions are contagious and empaths are specially to others' emotional energies. Because they are so attuned to others, they can get easily exhausted in crowds, be drawn into codependent, exhaust themselves trying to solve others' problems or burn out from too much caregiving. Yet empathy is also a gift that brings greater and understanding. So ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ first ਕਿਹਾ as research has shown emotions are contagious and are specially ਕੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ resistant ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ sensitive ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ but ਅਗਰ emotions ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ emotions words ਤੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ sensitive so first blank ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਏਗਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ sensitive they can get easily exhausted easily ਉਹ exhaust ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ crowd ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ be drawn into co-dependent exhaust themselves trying to other problems so ਅਗਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੀਆਂ problems ਨੂੰ solve ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ so ਉਹ ਕੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ co-dependent relationships so next ਹੈਗਾ greater dash and understanding so understanding ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਥੇ confusion word ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗਾ issues words ਵੀ understanding ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗਾ resistant ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗਾ resistant ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ so ਮੇਰੇ according ਇੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਆਏਗਾ insight so next blank ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ options ਨੇ exchange ingredient common dream precise pieced harmony horizontal and envisioned have been dreamed up through the ages ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹ ਰਿਪੀਟਡ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਬਟ ਇਹ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਰਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਹੈਗਾ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਏਪੀ ਯੂਨੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ ਤਾਂ thinkers have society where people live in peace and harmonies so have ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ed ਫਾਰਮ ਆਏਗੀ ਇੱਥੇ exchanged ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗਾ dreamed society ਵੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ pieced ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏਗਾ envision ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ where people live in peace and harmony so ਇੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਆਏਗਾ envision society next ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ another thing they have in dash is that to the average person they appear distasteful or unworkable since they do not take into account ordinary human nature of feelings. Another thing they have been, ਦੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਐਵੇਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸੋ ਇਹ ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਚੀਜ਼, ਕਾਮਨ। ਸੋ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ drew up plans for a reconstruction whole city including street widths ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏਗਾ precise। ਆਪਾਂ perfect city ਦਾ ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ, dream। So last ਹੈਗਾ right city was to be made up of numerous and the houses them were simple, functional and in harmony with the environment, not bought and sold। ਨਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਰੀਦ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ ਵੇਚ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, ਸੋ ਇਹ ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ, exchanged। would be ਹੈ ਤਾਂ would be ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ed ਫਾਰਮ ਆਏਗੀ। ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ less than 2 minutes। ਇਹ ਵੀ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੈਗਾ, admit recorded amount market raise reduced gear। case of nearly commodity, more will be if the price is lowered, less will be bought। if the price, ਇੱਥੇ price lower ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ price ਕੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ, raised ਕਿਉਂਕਿ high word ਇੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ। so next ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈ therefore if they wish to induce buyers to take more of a commodity than they are already doing, must reduce its price। if they will raise its price, they will sell less। if there is a general falling off in demand due say to trade depression, sellers will either have to ਜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਡਿਮਾਂਡ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵਧਾਉਣੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਗੇ, ਪ੍ਰਾਈਸ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਨਗੇ or put less on the market। they will not be able to sell the same amount at the same price। the primary purpose of the passage is to defend a controversial interpretation of two novels, because explain the source of widely recognized responses to two novels, delineate broad difference between two novels, compare and contrast two novels। so ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਨਸਰ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, both novelists use a storytelling method that emphasize iconic distinction between different perspectives on the same event, as well as ironic tensions that inhere in relation between surface drama and concealed eye method। so मैं ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ negative marking नहीं है, so मैं last one ही choose कर रही हूँ। time's up। so next part is the listening, summarize spoken text।
I'm fascinated by the extent to which sharing economy platforms like Uber and Airbnb are getting Americans to trust each other again. Over the last 40 years, the level of trust in society has fallen quite dramatically. Less than 1 in 5 Americans under the age of 35 today feel that people are trustworthy in general. But in parallel, we've developed a heightened level of trust in strangers who we meet through a digital interface. There's a generation that has grown up reading Yelp reviews, reading Amazon reviews, making their consumption choices based on what strangers on a digital platform say. And so someone who we interact with, who comes accompanied by online reviews, a Facebook and LinkedIn profile and other digital cues, seems to be someone we'll trust at the level of friends and family. What excites me about this transition is that through history, every time society has created a new basis for trust, it has expanded the economy dramatically. So I'm looking forward to seeing, as we trust our Uber drivers more, how this expands the world's economic activities and the possibilities for trade.
So you can use template. So I am using my template. A brief lecture was presented on Uber drivers. The speaker was, this is the line from template, the speaker was mainly talking about, write down the first phrase, less than 5 Americans but he also covered a heightened level of trust and digital interface. Then he quoted some examples for better clarification. Later on, he also discussed online reviews on Facebook, and LinkedIn. Finally, the speaker summed up his lecture and concluded that it created a new way of interest. So proofreading is very important in this task. A brief lecture was presented on Uber drivers. This is the first line. Close this line with the full stop and give a space after full stop. The speaker was mainly talking about less than 5 Americans. Here U is capital in the Uber drivers and Americans A capital. Now this is the third line, but he also covered a heightened level of trust and digital interface. Then he quoted some examples for better clarification. Later on, he also discussed online reviews on Facebook and LinkedIn. Finally, the speaker summed up his lecture and concluded that, and total words are 66. Click on the next button. Multiple choice, multiple answers with negative marking.
In places where there's been serious community tensions, I mean, Brickenden's a good example of this. There were 250 reported incidents there in 2009, often to do with neighbours and arguments, but criminal activity too. And the police will tell you that if you leave residents to sort things out for themselves, the number of incidents rises, it doesn't fall. So the local council realised that they had to do something. So they went round to people's houses and met them and their neighbours and talked to everyone and got a general idea of what the local concerns were. If there were extended families involved, they looked at those particular families more closely and all the relatives and got some of the family intervention services to talk to them. And there were some very positive results. I mean, you can pick out the hotspots, the main areas for crime. But the hotspots don't tell you what causes the crime in the first place, and so don't address the issues. So this proactive, more direct approach by the council worked well. And this was followed up with other quite practical solutions like cleaning up the area, getting rid of debris in alleyways and just making the place somewhere more agreeable, more livable.
Listening, filling the blanks.
The New South Wales government has apologised for yesterday's transport chaos in and around Sydney Harbour during the visit of the Queen Mary II and the Queen Elizabeth II. Roads were lammed, traffic ground to a halt while tram and ferry services were swamped with thousands of additional passengers, with most services delayed for hours. Premier Maurice Humer says that plans were put in place to deal with the congestion, but the number of visitors well exceeded expectations. On the harbour itself there seemed to be as much congestion as there was on the roads, but everyone agreed it was an amazing spectacle.
So first is has. With has we use third form of verb, apologized. You can write the apologized with S as well as with Z. Next is ferry. Third one is exceeded expectations. Next is spectacle. T-A-C-L-E. So check your spellings. Apologized, ferry, expectations, then next is spectacle.
Dogs aren't just man's best friend. Previous studies have shown that kids with dogs are less likely to develop asthma. Now a new study may show how, if results from mice apply to us. The work was presented at a meeting of the American Society for Microbiology. The study tests what's called the hygiene hypothesis. The idea is that extreme cleanliness may actually promote disease later on. Researchers collected dust from homes that had a dog. They fed that house dust to mice. They then infected the mice with a common childhood infection called respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV.
Hygiene. Childhood. Respiratory.
Abandoned pueblos are scattered throughout the southwestern U.S., and at many, archaeologists have uncovered a curious artifact, the skeletons of scarlet macaws. The bird's bright red feathers are known to have been an important status symbol, a signifier of prestige, for people throughout the American tropics and the Southwest, both in the ancient world and today. But macaws are a tropical bird, whose range never extended north of today's U.S.-Mexico border. So how did the Pueblo people obtain the birds? To examine the bird's origin, scientists sequenced mitochondrial DNA found within macaw bones from two sites in New Mexico, Chaco Canyon and the Mimbres region. Turns out nearly 3/4 of the birds had identical mitochondrial genome sequences, meaning the ancient birds came from the same maternal line. That suggests they were all the products of a breeding operation, perhaps in modern-day northern Mexico, rather than a random collection of wild-caught birds.
So first is uncovered. With have we use third form of verb. Second is a signifier of prestige. Prestige, whose range never extended north of today's US. Scientists sequenced SEQUENCED. You can check your spellings of sequence from here also, but here is the sequenced. Turns out nearly. Next is breeding. Breeding operation. Next is highlight correct summary.
Well, employers are currently experiencing a love-hate relationship with social media. Some are using it to their advantage. They're reaching more customers, increasing sales, and improving their brand image through social networking sites. They're also using them for recruitment. On the other hand, many employers continue to see the bad side of social media and believe that it poses a threat to their business. Negative comments online can damage a brand, and employers also worry that employees might spend too much time online during working hours, stopping them from working effectively and completing all their tasks. But this problem provides employers with an opportunity. Employees who spend a lot of time on social networking sites do it because they're bored. They don't feel challenged and want to fill their time. This suggests that employers should take a more active role in providing development opportunities for their staff and setting new goals. This way, they can benefit from the advantages of social media without experiencing the difficulties.
So according to me, correct option is C, because social media can help employees to develop their businesses and find new staff. Multiple choice single answer. What will follow this lecture?
Listen to part of a lecture and answer the questions.
Okay, now let's talk about handball violations. I bet you all know that you aren't supposed to use your hands when you play soccer. It is called a handball violation. You cannot touch any part of the ball with your hands unless you are the goalkeeper. Only the goalkeeper can touch the ball with his hands. A handball violation includes using any part of the body from the fingers to the shoulders. Until here, this is all you know. Now, I want to ask you some questions. First, picture this situation. In the middle of a game, a player kicks the ball, and the ball touches the hand of the opposite team player. But he didn't touch it intentionally. Now, is it a handball violation? I want you to think about it. Here goes another question. What if the kicker did that intentionally? Is it a handball violation?
There have been several influential studies in pain management. Some of the most interesting of these study endorphins, the body's own natural painkillers. For example, we now know that exercise stimulates the production of endorphins. Lack of exercise, on the other hand, not only shuts down endorphin production, but can also lead to muscle deterioration. This is why you see a lot of pain specialists prescribing exercise for patients with chronic pain. Another interesting area involves the power of the placebo effect. We've known for some time that a sugar pill, or other inactive placebo, can sometimes make a sick person feel better. Somehow, the power of suggestion, or faith in the doctor, or the drug, will start a process of healing. We now think a neurochemical component. What may actually happen is the placebo effect allows some people to sort of tap into the supply of endorphins.
The body of the worker bee is divided into 3 segments: head, thorax, and abdomen. On the head are the mandibles, the jaw-like organs which enable the bees to perform the necessary hive duties and to mold the wax and build their combs. The honeybee's 4 wings and 6 legs are fastened to the thorax. Located in the abdomen are the honey sac and the sting, with its highly developed poison sac. The sting is used by the workers for self-defense and for the protection of their colony. The worker uses her sting only once, for in doing so, she
Highlight incorrect words.
In vitro fertilization efforts can be helped by, oddly enough, oral contraceptives. That's the finding from Tel Aviv University, site of the largest study on using birth control to help IVF. One of the challenges to IVF is timing. Current hormone treatments to stimulate ovulation have to coincide with a particular moment in the woman's cycle. Not knowing the exact timing for scheduling the egg retrieval and fertilization can be stressful, which can lower the odds of success. In the Tel Aviv study, researchers looked at women who underwent a 12 to 17-day treatment of oral contraception. The women were checked to make sure there was absolutely no activity in their ovaries or uterus. Then they began stimulation hormones to start the clock. Women who went through this protocol had similar numbers of pregnancies to a control group that didn't use birth control, which means that oral contraception didn't harm their ability to conceive. The researchers say this treatment demands a slightly longer cycle and higher levels of ovulation-inducing hormones, but they also say it could allow couples to more accurately plan for procedures, which might give couples more peace of mind.
If authorities wanted to determine how pervasive the problem of illicit drug use was in their communities, how could they do it? One cheap and easy way has just been tried experimentally in Oregon. Based on the principle that what goes in must come out, researchers measured the amounts and kinds of drugs that made their way through users to become included in untreated wastewater. This first-of-its-kind research is reported in the journal Addiction. 96 municipal water treatment facilities across Oregon volunteered for the study, which concentrated on finding evidence of the drugs meth, cocaine, and ecstasy. All samples were collected on the same day in areas that include about two-thirds of that state's population. Some findings. Evidence for cocaine use was primarily in urban areas, almost non-existent in rural regions. Ecstasy use tended toward urban areas as well, and only turned up in about half of all communities. Meth was everywhere. More important than those one-day snapshot findings, however, is that this methodology was proven viable and could be used to track patterns of drug use in multiple regions over time. The food and beverage industry spend more than $10 billion a year in the U.S. to market their products to children, and it's money well spent for them. By age 2, children may already harbor preferences for certain brands, and kids under 6 can often associate brands with specific products, such as McDonald's. Here's how powerful the McDonald's brand is, according to a study just published in the August issue of the journal Archives of Pediatric and Adolescent Medicine. Preschool kids were given the exact same food in either unmarked packages or in McDonald's packaging, but the kids, all between 3 and 5 years old, said they liked the taste better when the food looked like it was from McDonald's. One of the foods tested was carrots.
What's up, Doc?
What's up is that the kids said they liked, quote, McDonald's carrots, end quote, better than just plain carrots by more than 2 to 1. And the more TV sets in a kid's home, the more likely he or she was to prefer the food in McDonald's bags.
Different factors affect the freezing time of water.
Different factors affect. I am confusing, so I am writing here both. Affect the freezing time of water. The and different factors affect the freezing time of water.
The subject is complex and difficult to explain.
The subject is complex and difficult to explain. The and an. These are 3 extra words. The subject is complex and difficult to explain. It is easy.
Experience would be an advantage for this managerial role.
Experience would be an advantage for this managerial role. Experience would be an advantage for this managerial role.
Background music can help students concentrate on their studies.
Background music can help students to concentrate on their study. Background music can help students to concentrate on their study. So study or studies, so I am writing here studies as well. So this is my score of the real mock test. ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ mock test ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹ ਮੈਂ casually ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਂਗ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਾਂ normally ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਮੈਂ ਉਵੇਂ ਹੀ appear ਹੋਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਇਸ mock test ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ score analysis ਹੈਗਾ overall 85 ਹੈਗਾ and listening 89, reading 87, speaking 75 and writing is 90. So ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ just ਆਪਣਾ score analysis ਹੀ share ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਇਹ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਕਾਫੀ ਲੈਂਥੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਰੀਡ ਅਲਾਉਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਾਰਕ ਸਕੋਰ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਰੈਕਟਨੈਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਪਰਸੈਂਟੇਜ ਦੈਟ ਇਜ਼ 80 and this is 85. Describe image ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 63 ਹੈ that's why I got 75 in speaking. ਸੋ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ AP ਯੂਨਿਟ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ AP ਯੂਨਿਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬੈਕਗਰਾਊਂਡ ਨੋਇਸ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਿਨੀਮਾਈਜ਼ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਬੈਕਗਰਾਊਂਡ ਨੋਇਸ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਫਲੂਐਂਸੀ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਨੰਸੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਕੋਰ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਘਟ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਦੈਟਸ ਵਾਈ ਗॉट 63 ਅਦਰਵਾਈਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਫਾਈਨਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਕੋਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ 80 ਪਲੱਸ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਪੀਕਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੋ ਦਿਸ ਇਜ਼ ਦੀ ਸਕੋਰ ਆਫ ਰੀਟੇਲ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਸੋ ਦਿਸ ਇਜ਼ ਦੀ ਆਨਸਰ ਸ਼ਾਰਟ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਸੋ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਸੀਗਾ ਰਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਸੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਰਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਰਾਈਟ ਫਰਮ ਡਿਕਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗਾ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਰਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਦੈਨ ਲਿਸਨਿੰਗ ਫਿਲਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਬਲੈਂਕਸ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਰਾਈਟ ਐਨ ਐਸੇ ਸਮਰਾਈਜ਼ ਸਪੋਕਨ ਟੈਕਸਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਮਿਸਟੇਕ ਹੋਈ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਦੈਨ ਸਮਰਾਈਜ਼ ਰਿਟਨ ਟੈਕਸਟ ਸਮਰਾਈਜ਼ ਸਪੋਕਨ ਟੈਕਸਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ AP ਯੂਨਿਟ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮੋਸਟ ਆਫ ਦੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੰਟੈਂਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ 1.9 ਦਿੰਦਾ ਆਊਟ ਆਫ 2 ਸੋ ਉਹ ਮੇਰਾ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ 5.6 ਆਊਟ ਆਫ 5.7 ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਸਕੋਰ ਐਨਾਲਿਸਿਸ ਇਹ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੋ ਇਹ ਮੇਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਹਾਈਲਾਈਟ ਇਨਕਰੈਕਟ ਵਰਡਸ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਰੀਡ ਅਲਾਉਡ ਦੀ ਪਰਸੈਂਟੇਜ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਹਾਈਲਾਈਟ ਇਨਕਰੈਕਟ ਵਰਡ ਮੇਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਮਿਸਿੰਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੋ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਸੀਗਾ ਰੀਆਰਡਰ ਪੈਰਾਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਸਮਰਾਈਜ਼ ਰਿਟਨ ਟੈਕਸਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਮਿਸਟੇਕ ਹੋਈ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਸੀਗਾ ਮਲਟੀਪਲ ਚੋਇਸ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ ਨੇ 42.1 ਦੈਨ ਹਾਈਲਾਈਟ ਕਰੈਕਟ ਸਮਰੀ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਟਾਸਕ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ AP ਯੂਨਿਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਵੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਰੀਆਰਡਰ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਟਾਸਕ ਨੇ ਖਾਸ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਸੋ ਲਿਸਨਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਸਕੋਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਰਾਈਟ ਫਰਮ ਡਿਕਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਲਾਈਕ ਦਿਸ ਤੇ ਸਪੀਕਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਰੀਟੇਲ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹ ਟਾਸਕ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਟਾਸਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿ ਲਿਸਨਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਟਾਸਕ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਟਾਸਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਹੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਰਾਈਟ ਫਰਮ ਡਿਕਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਰਿਪੀਟ ਸੈਂਟੈਂਸ ਹਾਈਲਾਈਟ ਇਨਕਰੈਕਟ ਵਰਡ ਲਿਸਨਿੰਗ ਫਿਲਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਬਲੈਂਕਸ ਰੀਟੇਲ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਤੇ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਮਰਾਈਜ਼ ਸਪੋਕਨ ਟੈਕਸਟ ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸੀਗਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਕੋਰ ਐਨਾਲਿਸਿਸ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਈ ਡਾਊਟਸ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਮੌਕ ਟੈਸਟ ਤੋਂ ਰਿਲੇਟਡ ਕੁਝ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਅਦਰਵਾਈਜ਼ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਸੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਰਟੀਕੂਲਰ ਡਾਊਟਸ ਨੇ ਦੈਨ ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਰਾਈਟ ਇਨ ਦੀ ਕਮੈਂਟ ਬਾਕਸ ਐਂਡ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲਾਈਕਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਮੇਰੀ ਵੀਡੀਓਜ਼ ਤੇ ਘੱਟ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਡੂ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਲਾਈਕ ਟੂ ਮਾਈ ਵੀਡੀਓਜ਼ ਐਂਡ ਸਬਸਕ੍ਰਾਈਬ ਟੂ ਮਾਈ ਚੈਨਲ ਐਜ਼ ਵੈਲ ਐਂਡ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਫॉर ਵਾਚਿੰਗ ਦਿਸ ਵੀਡੀਓ